Let your chance to be heard pass by. Spell out. Let me hear you loud, proud. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Wake up. No time for sleeping on the issues. This is Neutral Voices. We gon' deal with the issues. What do you really want? What they want?
Welcome to Neutral Voices. I'm Dr. V, and this is In Depth, where we dig deep in the trenches of what matters. And today we're going to be talking about the education system. Mm-hmm. Not just the system, though. I want to talk about education and the book ban and some of the crazy stuff that's going on with the security, the cell phones. And because it's hard to really get to the educational part as a teacher when we got all these other, I'm going to call these other distractors, serious distractors.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit too. Okay. And where we think we're headed with this. So
sounds good.
That sounds good. And and you open the door because just on the news before I came here, once again, there was a student, I believe, at the Electric Works. What is it called? The Amp Lab or whatever they have down there. Yes, there was a student down there that they found with a gun. Today. And that's what, the fourth incident or something like that happened in the Fort Wayne Community Schools in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I mean,
don't be trying to call it.
Some parents on that point right there, the parents should be totally held totally responsible.
Wait.
Totally responsible. If they find a gun on that student, parents is totally responsible. Because, let's be realistic about it.
Realistically,
I agree too.
I'm going to be
the guy that got that shot up in, I want to say Michigan.
Michigan, yes.
Guess what? His parents is on trial as well.
Yes,
for the murders.
Yeah, I know, and I do know some parents are actually in jail. Yeah, I get that part, but I'm saying the reason I say they shouldn't be, not in all situations, I think it should be an individualized situation. But listen, the reason I say that is because you can't really control what your child does and get into when they leave the house.
Right.
And so what if somebody else passes it to them? You have no knowledge. I'm from that perspective.
I'm going to open your thought up a little bit further.
Okay.
You have a child that's 16, 17. You allow them to drive your car. Your child gets in your car intoxicated, inebriated in some form, some fashion. They hit somebody. They hurt somebody. They cause any damage. Who's responsible? The parent, because you are the one that is supposed to be
provided them the vehicle.
Yes, and you're supposed to be the one that has the supervision and monitor. Even when they're out of your supervision, you are responsible for your child's behavior. So I will agree with E on that. I know it sounds harsh, but it's the reality.
Because I'm not a parent, but I'm just trying to see. I'm trying to understand that if I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, raise my child, bring them up in church, everything, right?
I don't mean nothing.
I'm just saying, and we got the village hands on them, telling them right for wrong, but they get connected to the wrong person and they put something in their hand and tell them, hold this for me, or this what we gonna do. Peer pressure. I'm saying it's a real thing.
If you got the village like you say you have, that child will have sense enough to know that I'm not going to grab that off of you.
I look at the situation as the same thing, whether it be, like you said, if someone hands them a gun, or if someone hands them a line of cocaine, or if someone hands them tells them to go steal something. So part of, I think, being a parent, like Clarence said, is I know that I am responsible for my daughter because I am her parent. So part of raising a child is preparing them for those situations where someone may influence them, or where somebody may, hopefully it never comes to that. But I feel like I should be held responsible because those are things that I should have instilled. Now, there are extenuating circumstances. I'm not going to say that every child that has shot up a school or brought a gun to school, their parents were like, way to go, Billy, because we know that's not the case. But I feel like if you are parenting in a strict way, in a way that is a parent and not a friend, you are going to know what your child is doing most of the time, or educate them for those situations that could arise.
Jill, I love that coming from a mother, but and I know we can't stay here because we got to get into some of our, our educational topics and things like that. But I'm just thinking, as a parent, it's not my fault if my child has a baby at an early age.
I think a lot of parents think that way.
Yeah, and so if we look at it, not just
in
guns.
the state of Indiana, if your child is under the age of 18 and has a child, you are solely responsible for that child.
That's your baby,
right? But and that's why I said so. Not just to pick on guns, etc. But I'm looking at, I guess, everything. And so, like you mentioned, drugs, etc. So I guess I just have that thought, and I'm thinking about these awesome, amazing parents that we have, right? And we know. And I'm saying it just don't seem like it's right for them to be held responsible in that case. Whereas I do understand when a parent has actually went out and purchased the gun, the weapon, or even saw it in his bag and said it's okay for him to defend himself, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm saying from those perspectives, there's got to be some type of line drawn here.
There shouldn't be no balance or no line.
I love this. This should be a whole nother topic, but coming from parents that you feel the way you feel. It's respect. But I would like to hear from the voice of our community somewhere in there. So we might have to pop this out for some comments, and so we can dig a little deeper with what people really feel and who's to blame, and should parents be held responsible for all of the things that their young people do. Question from the audience.
I can't discipline my child. How can you hold me accountable?
Good question. Question from the audience. If I cannot discipline my child, how can you, the law, hold me responsible?
That's a rock and a hard place. 22. That's smoke and mirrors. Yeah. And I agree with that question. That question is the hardest question because there are laws. There are certain things now that with disciplining the children, and you can't do. So that does that. But then that sets up the law. They're different. When they take the responsibility or the ability from you, where do they place it? They place it in their own hands. So therefore, I do see where parents are saying, well, I can't, if I could, like we were talking earlier, our days, you looking up from the floor when you disrespect your mom or your dad, and it wasn't nothing. You hit your child today, people coming to your door asking you why you hit your child like that.
Well, I'm gonna do something different to you then, Clarence. I'm gonna take them coming to my door. Period. I'm gonna take them coming to my door because first and foremost, you're not gonna disrespect me. Second of all, you're not gonna be out here in the streets acting stupid. I would rather beat you down. I would rather beat you down than have the cops beat you down.
Right.
Or have to go to the morgue and identify your body.
Wow.
I feel you.
So if they're gonna come to my house, I'm gonna give them a reason to come to my house. And when they come to my house, guess what? He's totally yours.
Okay. Turn them over.
This belongs to you now.
Agree 100%. And I actually wrote down when you guys were talking, and I've probably broke plenty of laws raising my child because at the end of the day, nobody is going to tell me how to discipline my child. And with that being said, I have a 19, soon to be 20-year-old child who is doing pretty well considering all the laws I probably broke in order to discipline her so that she's not out here being a menace contributing to society in that way.
I'm agree with that with Jill because I told my mom I think there's some statues that ain't ran out for the things you did to me.
My parents do.
Watch out.
That's all of it.
Watch out, parents.
My parents would have a life sentence.
Yeah. So that's
Dad, you're safe. I appreciate you. Every shoe. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so definitely that is a topic and discussion.
It is.
All for another day, another time, because that's some good stuff to get into. So there's so many new laws out. I mean, it's been over 100 laws just I'm talking about in Indiana. Since July 1st.
Yes.
New laws in wow. So have you guys looked at any of the laws?
Yes.
There's some that pertains to the education system for sure. Before we get deep off into I'm going to tell y'all this one. This might make you happy, but there's one law that I noticed, not that this pertains to me, but I thought this was pretty good because I didn't know that Indiana didn't have a happy hour law. Like I thought
thought
when they be having wings for a discount at Smoky
That's
Bones.
happy hour.
When they say
I thought that was happy hour.
no, when they say happy hour, it pertains to liquor.
Drink. Yep.
I'm just telling you,
Yes.
I just learned this
Yeah.
in this whole discovery of all these new laws.
Yes.
So let me make you happy. so now here's the law. 40 years, this has not been a law. I'm like, I need to check into that a little deeper because that sounds like, man, it's a long time. But for 40 years, they haven't had the happy hour law in Indiana. And so happy hour is really when they can discount this liquor.
Right.
And so what I found is they can do this now for like 4 hours per day, or not more than, and not more than 4 hours. 15 hours per week.
Right.
And I'm thinking, so somebody can get real happy with these.
And that's why they stopped it.
Right. And so, but I didn't realize that. And so then it's like, but from the hours of 9 p.m. to 3 a.m., they cannot have happy hour.
Correct.
Right.
You got to get your happy hour on
Before
that.
9.
Yep. Make sure you're happy before that hour comes.
I was like, okay, that's a new one. So there's one for you. That's just extra. But so in looking at that law, then I also started discovering some other things, some other laws. And so obviously there's some out there for adult website access.
Well, and that
What?
that goes
What
into
is
the
that?
educational system as well, because now there's so many electronics that the school system is distributing, and in some systems they don't have any monetization on those electronics.
Okay.
So you give the wrong child the wrong electronic and access to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They're looking at
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
So in Indiana now there is an age restriction and a verification of age on certain sites. So that's not a bad thing.
It's
That's
not a bad thing.
because think about it. You giving these kids electronics, even though cell phones, parents give them, but with school system, the ones that can afford cell phone, the school system giving them these tablets, these laptops, and they're giving them internet sources. So now they have access to
Everything.
Some of that stuff. And so going into that, so one of the things is also the cell phone. So getting into more of the school system. So they have this new thing that we have to follow. And technically there are no cell phones permitted, period, in school. So they have the devices. At our school, we have the Yonder. And
is that the bag?
they
thing?
have to go in a pouch and they're locked in there. And then I have this nice, cute little spaceship looking magnet thing where I unlock their phones. But some of them already traveled to my school with their phones supposedly locked in a bag or not. But either way, they're not allowed, period.
And you know what's wild to me is I was on some site on some page on Facebook. I don't remember if it was Fort Wayne Community or one of the neighbor sites or whatever. So anyways, they were talking about this prior to the school year beginning. The amount of parents that were absolutely irate and cared more about their child having a cell phone than probably their education as a whole was absolutely like asinine. So at the same time, I started doing a little research and I found a video, right? And there was a teacher and she was standing in front of the class and it was an experiment. So she allowed everyone in the room to have their phone. And every time a student got a notification, whether it be from Facebook, a text, a call, she put a check mark on the poster board. Within a 30-minute class period, I believe there were almost 300 notifications. So in other words, she was trying to show the distraction level in a small classroom with all of these phones. But the amount of parents that are absolutely irate about their child not having a cell phone is crazy to me.
It's crazy. Before you say that, and Gio, I just want you to hear this. This is just the truth. They were probably really upset because probably 50% of those notifications
We're mom and dad.
from
We're
parents.
parents.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
coming from the parents.
Can I play the devil advocate on this one? We just talked about all the guns that's actually getting in school. School gets shot up. Kids can't get to their phones to call their parents or to notify anybody that the school's getting shot up.
Or call 911 for
Call
that matter.
or call 911. Now at this point, the shooter ain't got so deeply into the school Kids can't have their phones. Teacher ain't supposed to have their phones. Nobody knows.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's-
And that was the
but you
common
know, it's
rebuttal.
always that one
Exactly.
brave person at the bank that's gonna hit the switch. There's
Yeah.
probably always one student
But-
that's gonna
Yeah.
have a phone. No, I'm
but-
just kidding.
No, I'm
but
just
I
saying.
do
That's what-
agree
yeah.
with you,
Yes,
and that was
totally.
one of my concerns.
Yes.
So,
I mean, so
even
you-
as a teacher,
Yeah, so you I understand the distractions of the
Yeah.
cell phone, but at what level? Being that now schools are getting shot up more than they're getting shot up more than
Record
their
high.
more than their cell phones in the school.
Right.
wow,
So
wow.
I mean, let's be realistic about it. Just in the last 3 years, it was like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
See,
let's
we coming up with some good topics. So before we
So
run
let's
out
think
of
about
time, first of all, let me just remind you, this is Neutral Voices, and this is In Depth, and we're talking about the education system. We don't get into that, but there's a lot of little things that lead us into where we're going for this particular topic. So with that, and talking about cell phones, so let me speak from a teacher's perspective. I can tell you that my students have been more engaged.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 100% more engaged
ain't got no other choice.
since I'm just saying this school year. No, honestly, now they can still get into riffraff, you know. I mean, they can do what they do,
Right.
but right now, I think they understand how serious this is, and they are really focusing in on when I'm talking. I'm just saying they're listening.
Right. You have their attention.
I have their attention. And you know, it's really weird. It's a really strange environment to get used to. And so it is what it is. Do you have a few students that's got some excuses why they have to have their phone? Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like in my class, okay, I got it. You know, I don't want to lose my job for saying this, but the truth is, and I talked to my principal, a certain situation, I need to give them time to you know, figure things out,
Right.
because that's major
Right.
for them. So some of them just need to see the phone. So maybe I won't lock it down in the pouch, but I'll put it in a they gave us another thing that the pouches go into, like a wall
Right.
pocket thing, shoe organizer. But
Yeah.
anyway, but the students actually feel better if they can see that
it.
phone.
Right.
Let me ask you
I
this.
got my watch though.
So when you said that the students seem like more engaged,
More engaged.
for example, when the students could have their phone, because you are an experienced teacher, so you've seen throughout the years the changes.
Yeah.
When the students were able to have access to their phone, were they? I mean, when you say they're engaged, they're looking at you, they're communicating. Was everybody always on their phone when they had access to their phone? Would you say?
I'll say 75% of the students were
Really?
checking, and I can tell
So
when
they
you
were
go
always,
into
like,
text
looking
position,
down and-
text position,
Yeah.
text posture. I'm sure there's a lot of pastors out there that will say, "I know that posture,"
Yeah.
but when you're looking down and
Right.
you're down for a period
Yep.
of time,
Right.
and you know, of course, if you jump, I know you probably just got a notification or something, you know, happen. So we can tell.
Yeah.
But when you are actually, I'm gonna say, reflective listening is one of the things that we have to teach them in cosmetology, because when you are talking with someone, and I tell them, we playing tennis.
Right.
We
Yeah.
need to go back and forth here. But when they're not doing that, and they never look up, they never nod, they never give you a look as I don't really understand. Teachers need that to read.
Right.
Where do I need to go? So that's
Right.
immediate feedback for me to say, you know what, I need to go. Let me cover these vocabulary
Yeah.
words
Right.
one more time.
Yeah.
Well, let me clear up some understanding.
Clear up
for
some
you.
Yeah.
confusion in the room. Anybody got any questions? It's because I just looked at this person's face.
Yeah.
But if people are like this, I can't figure
Yeah.
out what's
Right.
going on because I'm looking at the top of your head. I can see that you got a bad French lace. Yeah. Okay, did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, you got something going on.
It'll be interesting
But
though to see the grades too.
I can't wait.
I mean, really, you'll have to let it. You'll have to. I'm sure it'll
Yes.
be out there. You know,
Yes.
because everybody's probably waiting on
Yes,
you know what kind of effect this
absolutely.
has.
They already said that the scores are up higher in some places.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yes, I think one place I heard it was like 30% higher
That's great.
just since cell phones have been
That's great.
taken away. So
Yep,
anyway,
yep.
that's one of the things we want to talk about. So here we go. Let's get into some of the stuff that concerns us in the school system. Some of the new stuff. They got so many different tests. So just want to say they got I read, I learn,
Right.
I am.
They got
somebody. But
They got I. They just got I.
Oh.
Everything that got I, you know.
I step.
Yeah.
But no. But they have all of these different testing things. And of course, we're familiar with the PSAT and the SAT, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about it. So I think one of the new ones would be I read.
Yep. Yep.
Jill, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah.
And what is I read?
So I had to look into this because I didn't know. My daughter is no longer in school. But what is I read? What is the purpose of I Read 3? It is a grade 3 reading assessment that measures foundational reading skills, including students' ability to read and understand grade level text. So which students are required to participate? Which students do you think? All students. And basically there are some exemptions. Pretty much what this is, to put into regular terms, is you must pass I Read 3 in order to go on to grade 4. So instead of being what the system is calling socially promoted to 4th grade, you actually have to pass this to get into 4th grade. So when I talked about exemptions, you know, because there's always exemptions. There's a GCE, which is called a good cause exemption. So anybody that falls under let's say a child with a disability, a child with, was it an IEP? Yes. Or a student that has already been retained twice has an exemption. And I actually did a little bit of research on this because I wanted to see, have other places tried this prior to Indiana? So what I happened to find, first of all, before I say that, since 2012, the amount of students who are able to read by the end of 3rd grade has more, that were not able to read, has more than doubled. The Indiana literacy rate have been on the steady decline for the last decade at least. With that being said, Mississippi, they call it the Mississippi Miracle. So a lot of times when we're talking about the cons of something like this, we are saying, or studies are also saying that those who fall in the category of poverty level are going to be most affected by things like this. So I was doing a little research and I found that Mississippi, we know what the poverty level is like in Mississippi. So it said that in the last decade, Mississippi has rapidly closed the test score gap. However, they went from being second in the second worst state in literacy before this program. So in 2013, they had what they called the early reading law. They were kind of one of the first states to implement this. They have already seen almost a 70% increase of their literacy rates. That's why they're calling it a miracle, because the numbers are just absolutely insane. And even there was a study done by the Urban Institute that said for years the test scores were below the national average. And now the testing expert, someone at Harvard University, says that the stats, and he attributes the improvements to the new law. And again, this was in 2013, and it was called a literacy-based promotion act to raise standards and expectations. That's where it's been most successful, is Mississippi.
Okay. Clarence, you seem like you had something to say about.
Well, I'm on the fence about the I read. The one thing that I am in favor of is that they say if you cannot read by the 3rd grade level, that puts you in the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
Exactly. They really say that during those formative years, that's what sets your track from school to prison pipeline. And so I do agree that we need something to track and to change the progress in reading. And I'm gonna let you go with this because it's a valid point that he made. But I think reading is one of the most essential things we need in life.
Absolutely.
But we were talking a little earlier, and he mentioned that.
I mean, but if you don't put it like this, reading is more important than knowing math.
Okay.
Because if you cannot read, if you don't have the knowledge to read, now I could put anything or say anything to you, and you won't go back and study.
Right.
Okay.
Now, here's one of the best things about this. Now that you the parents are held more responsible now, because now I got to force my child to pass this 3rd grade read. Now and also put pressure on the teacher to say, hey, this child needs to pass. And so now you studying instead of having them to study for a test, as far as like the I-step test and what things and whatnot, you teaching these kids now to study to read,
Right.
which is going to further them in life.
Right.
Now you can hide all the books out of the school system you want now at this point, because guess what? My child know how to go find this book and read it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now
So,
you
so go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so
applaud you for that.
and that's awesome, because you're leading into one of the places that I wanted to go, and I know, see, we just run out of time so fast around here. But one of the things I wanted to talk about real quick, so we have all these different systems, the different tests, and you just said the child, once that child can read, now it doesn't matter what books are banned.
Right.
Look, from school.
From school.
If a parent is teaching the child how to go to the library, how to utilize the
You don't
library.
have to go to the library. It's right here.
Well,
at the palm of their hand.
Well, let's pretend the phones are taken even when you get home for a period of time. And the reason I say that is because let's not forget about the libraries.
Right.
No, we're
Right?
not.
Because I
No.
love the library. I love the library. Seriously. It's just so many resources, so many things to learn, right?
Right.
But here's my thing. One of the reasons why I really love it, and I'll say this is a solution to some of all this banding that's going on. I did have some stats, some numbers, some things I wanted to say, but it is so much and we're going to run out of time. But I do want to say that even though they may be banning doing this crazy stuff across the different states, y'all going to have to look it up, especially by state. Indiana,
by state.
we're not doing too bad. We number 13 on the banning list. But we
Florida,
only got like
Texas.
3 top books that we're banning compared to Texas. We got like
Florida,
400.
Texas.
Look, you know how they say Texas do everything big, right?
Yes.
Texas has, I got to give y'all this number. Texas has 438 books that they banned for sure.
Yes.
Compared to Indiana, 3.
Yes.
Now, I could give you the titles, but you have to look that up yourself because I don't want to be offensive to anybody. But I say that to say, parents, take your kids to the library and take them at a young age, even before 3.
Right.
And let them, you know how you say, raise them up in the way they should go. Raise them up in the library so that they have a thirst to read. Yes. I had one young man who shared a book with me. He said, Ms. V, have you read this book? And we had a conversation about the last book I was reading, the last book he was reading. And I said, no, that sounds really interesting. And he shared that book with me and I pulled it up. And it's one of the books that I just finished. He said, did you finish it? I still got a little bit to go. It's good for conversation.
Right.
And listen, here's the thing. Do you know that the library does not discriminate?
No.
It doesn't matter, rich or poor.
You can get a card.
What color?
Yeah.
Full access.
Yeah.
And we need to take advantage of it. But if parents are not even driving their children on the Saturday, I don't know which day you can do it, after school, etc.
Right.
We need to do that. That's where we are definitely held responsible.
Now, as I stated previously, that I'm on the fence, and I agree with what everybody's saying about the iRead, but I see possible. I'm not going to say probable, but I see possible flaws.
Okay.
Jill hit on that one. Now, E and I was talking. I remember when I was in school, in elementary school, you had a reading level. And what your reading level determined what book you were in that grade that you were reading. Some people read at 3rd grade 3-month level. Some read at 5th grade 12-month level. So that changes the reading book that you were in. Do they still have reading books in school? I don't know.
I was just getting ready to say, because I remember I was in a book called Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
And it was like a higher book.
Yeah.
Because I was like 3 grades higher in a reading than some of the, and I'm like, what you doing with that book?
Right.
See Jane run.
Yeah. So you see that. And Jill was talking about the numbers in which people that have IEPs and things like that.
Yeah.
I see that greater number being changed because it eliminates the number of the failures out of the count. It puts, I'm not saying it can happen, but you got to think you can inflate the numbers of IEPs, or changing things. And the reason I say that, and he argued with me because he said you can't manipulate the test. There's 33 teachers in Atlanta that went to jail.
Oh my goodness!
For manipulating the test.
Guess what, Clarence?
So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that it's gonna happen, but I'm just saying there's some probable things, and these are already implemented. So how do you gauge these? You can't do the data after you implemented the program.
Okay, and I just want to warn y'all, you got to get this.
Well,
but I'm just saying, we run out of time, just so y'all know.
Yeah.
Here's the great thing what you just said. The learning disabilities and IEPs or whatever, guess what? They might not pass the test, and you might say, okay, this child is an EEP, but guess what? During that whole time, they learning still how to read on another level.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that.
So yes, but okay, that child might not pass, and you like, okay, he's an IED or whatever. But guess what? IEP. But guess what? That child is still further than what he would have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
If he wasn't doing the iRead.
And I'm not focusing on the child. I'm looking at the greater system.
That is the greater system, right?
Because
think about it.
Doc V, as an educator, and I work in the school system, by the instructional hours, there's things by the instructional hours, there's things by the quality of education, there's things by the number of people that pass these tests, there's things by, everything is numerically based, and it's percentagely based. So, yes, they're learning how to read, but when I eliminate another 40% from IEPs, my funding come down because I don't have the proper numbers to meet because I don't have these numbers. We already talking about, tax bases are, already crippling, inner city schools because they're not getting a proper tax base. So if we start, manipulating some other numbers, that brings down the funding for schools, which in turn, it's not a greater thing. I'm praying, and I'm not against this. I'm just saying be aware. I'm just saying be aware because it happened. And those 33 teachers in Atlanta can testify that their jobs were put on the line. Yeah. They had to face this. They had to face that. They had to do all of that. And that's what pushed them to change the grade to manipulate that test. I'm all for this iRead. I'm just saying let's look at the whole picture.
Okay, so iRead is awesome, and especially when you get a student in your class that's because I teach 11th and 12th grade, but when you get an 11th or 12th grader and they can't read up to 6th grade level, etc., that happened because they were passed from the 3rd grade and they continued after that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I am for iRead 3. Sorry if anybody's opposed to it, but as a teacher, I am definitely for it. But one of the things that I wanted to bring out, so we're talking about the school system and all of that. You said something about awareness, that IEP matters.
Yes, it does.
Listen, you would be shocked to learn how many parents don't even know what their child's IEP is. They don't know what's on it. They weren't at the meetings when it was time to update them. So some of the stuff that's connected to your child's IEP from when they were in the 1st grade, 2nd grade,
still following
there.
On the 12th grade level.
Yes. And you have not checked into it. Have you even asked your child if they utilize what's on the IEP? So if it says that they get additional time for tests or that they can have their tests read to them, are they actually utilizing that?
Right.
And sometimes if they're not, it will come against them. It can hurt them as they begin to try to enter into another level of education.
Right, because that's set up for a reason.
Yes. And so like I've had a situation where a student needed that IEP. They needed that person to read to them, but the state of Indiana said, no, they can't have anybody read this cosmetology test to them because they haven't been using it for the last 2 years. And so parents, I'm saying that to say that was a hard lesson for this young child to learn. And it was shocking to me because I didn't realize that they needed to be utilizing it in order to get that accommodation. So I know that, I mean, I have so many things yet I still wanted to cover here. When I was just mentioning, not to go back to the book ban, but it really concerns me. And y'all know Oprah was pushing them books, right? And people reading books because Oprah was saying it, right? But I just wanted to say this one particular number. So just between 2023 and 2024, the ban has been, 65% increase. So the number of books so far that they are targeting is 4,240 books. And is that a big deal? I just want to say this, because some people may not care. How many people are hearing it, but not really paying attention to it? But what's the issue? But think about this. There's such a slippery slope when the government gets involved in what you can actually read.
Right.
And so watch what it does. It limits what a student can learn, but it also limits what a teacher can teach.
Correct.
And so once we start getting to that, it also limits your access to new ideas, because that's where we are inspired sometimes by things that we have read, right? Like when we watch TV, right? We're inspired. When you read, and then watch this, this is amazing. And we're going to exit with this quote because I have so many things, but I know we're out of time. Listen to this quote. Don't shut me down as soon as I say it, but I just want y'all to think about this quote. This is so powerful. It says, if you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you can only think what everyone else is thinking.
That's a word right there.
That's from Haruki Murakami. Never heard of the person. Yeah. But when I saw that quote, I'm like, wow. That's saying we're not having any individuality. Everybody's programmed. Come on.
Everybody is following the same system.
Yep. And you see why I'm saying, so yeah, I'm concerned about us just, we hear things and we just let it go. We never do anything. That's one of the reasons why religion, prayer was just snatched right out of school.
Yeah, because we allowed it to be.
So we talking about the education system. What about the parenting system? That should be greater than the education system.
That should be pushing.
Yes.
Right.
So that voice, parents' voice matters. And so one of the laws that they have passed, and so we'll exit with this, but one of the laws that they passed with all of these laws, let me just tell you, there was like 700 put out on the table.
Right.
Those 100 passed, 172, et cetera, right? Yeah. But one of them, which I thought was good. I talked to somebody about it. They was like, no, I'm not really for that. The child and the parent has a right to leave school. The principal has to give them permission that they can have a certain time respecting their religion practices. Yes. So whatever that looks like from your religious perspective, your beliefs, that principal has to they have to be flexible to that. Right. So I'm just saying there is a way, if it matters to you, for you to actually put prayer, maybe not back into the school, but maybe back into your child, back into your home. Yes. So sometimes we can't blame the system. We can't blame the government. We have to say, I dropped the ball and I'm not doing my part as an adult in this child's life. So it matters. Yeah, anybody got anything else, any other good things you want to sprinkle before we leave?
One thing, if you want to read some banned books, Miss Aisha Arrington at the Urban League, they have a bunch of books that are banned that they're giving away for free. You can go to the Urban League and you can get those books.
And if you want to know the books that are banned, you can Google that. There is a list of books.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
You looking? Some of the titles, like I said, I don't want to be offensive to anyone.
One book I see that in banned by Maya Angelou.
Which one? The Eyes? Which one?
Why? I know why the cage birds. Well,
I know why.
Yeah. I saw that one. Yeah. And one that was really funny, Charlotte's Web.
Yes.
Oh, Harry Potter is gone too.
Yeah.
But this one is going to get you. This is funny. From the American Literature Dictionary, that's banned in some places because they use the word bed in there, B-E-D. And they don't like the slang way it's used because you can imagine how it's used in the book. So
there's
it hit the ban list. What's the one?
Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
We gotta go.
They should have been banned that
There
one.
are so many books on the ban list, it will blow your mind. So anyway, check those out. This is Neutral Voices, and it's time for us to get out of here. And as we always say before we exit,
Always protect your mind.
Yes. A podcast by Neutral Voices Media.
Your opinions important, so you gotta speak out. Don't let your chance to be heard pass by. Spell out, let me hear you loud, proud. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Shout it out real loud. Everybody wake up. Wake up. No time for sleeping on the issues. This is Neutral Voices. We gon' deal with the issues.